Здравствуйте, товарищи, and welcome to our Let's Play of Kaiserreich, Darkest Hour. And, you know, I was really feeling that I wanted to play some Darkest Hour Kaiserreich, and I thought, you know what, why the hell don't I just do another Let's Play of Darkest Hour Kaiserreich? Because I love this game, you love this game, everybody freaking loves this game. So, you know, everybody's happy. But I've already decided which country I'm going to be playing as. And I'm going to be playing as the proud, prosperous, and truly indispensable nation of Canada. My own home native country, because I don't think I've ever played anything through as my own country, and it's something I've got to do. So, with that, I would like you guys, actually, to take some time to join me in a singing of my country's national anthem, performed by yours truly. Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all our sons' command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true North, strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Alright, so we're in. And let's go through what we have here. Also, some of you may have watched my previous Let's Play of Kaiserreich, in which I played as the Combined Syndicates of America, which, if you don't know who they are, you know, they will come, and we will talk about them when that time happens. But, before we start this, you know, Darkest Hour, Hearts of Iron, is a complicated game. There's lots going on, there's lots you need to do, and you know, this will be my third playthrough of the game, so you can tell that I really love it. But in case you didn't catch those other two, let's go over some of the basics of the game, and we'll talk about all the little ins and outs, and, you know, get you as up to speed as I possibly can, you know, if you ever decide that you want to go through and play this game yourself, which I would highly recommend, because one of the great things about Darkest Hour and Kaiserreich is that it's different every time. So, let's go through the premise of Kaiserreich, which is that World War I has been won by Germany, not, you know, the Entente. So, that has changed the face of the world dramatically, and we're now in 1936. So, let's go over through some of the changes in the world, then we'll go through the game engine, and then I'll go through some of the parameters that I'm going to be using to play this game. So, in that order, changes. So, Germany is now pretty much the dominant world power. They have a strong, powerful empire. They have... Actually, let me turn on the no fog cheat so we can see some of these empires here. So, Germany is the world's most powerful empire, and they have lots and lots of colonies. They have colonies in Africa, they've got colonies in China, you know, Indonesia, you know, Southeast Asia. I think are they in the Middle East? Yeah, they're in the Middle East. So they're everywhere. They're a strong, powerful, worldwide empire at this point, at the height of their prosperity. And losing the First World War has caused the Entente powers to go through some rough times. The French have had their own kind of socialist revolution, which has forced them to become the Commune of France. They're a socialist, leftist type of nation. The official label of their government is syndicist, and this revolution has forced a lot of the former French gentlemen, the traditionalist French, or whatever you want to call them, to have fled to other colonies that the French have owned, mainly in Africa. So we have National France, which is made up of what was the traditional French government. And something similar happened in England. That England had their own kind of revolution. So radical socialist government overthrew the monarchy, became a republic, blah 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 blah. And that has caused the royalists and the traditionalists to all flee to Canada. So Canada now has a lot of sort of the traditional British power within its borders. So we have most of the British Navy now. We've got strong commanders. We've got strong, stronger industrial base, because we have all these assets that were traditionally belonging to Britain have come to Canada. So Canada in this game is a pretty powerful nation. They're not as powerful as the United States when it's completely united, but they're certainly a force to be reckoned with. In Russia, the Germans sort of intervened in the Russian Civil War, causing the Soviets to never come to power. So they're still type of, I don't think they're exactly czarist. There's something weird. Because, the czar is not their head of state. But the Soviets are not in power. And, this has also caused a lot of... There's a bunch of other crazy stuff happening. Like, Italy is split between, an authoritarian faction and a socialist faction. Yugoslavia isn't formed. The Austro-Hungarian Empire did break up, but Austria owns, parts of Italy. Ottoman Empire is still kicking. Japan is still around, or Japan is here. They own parts of Russia. Australia is now called the Australasian Confederation, and they're part of my alliance, which is called the Entente, which is basically the former governments of the World War I era Entente. So basically we have Canada, we've got Australia, which includes New Zealand. Who else do we have? Where's my diplomacy? The Entente. Yeah, we've got Caribbean islands. We've got National France, and we've got Delhi, I think. Where are they? There they are. So yes, this is our alliance, and there are 3 other alliances in the game. Oh, sorry, 2 other alliances, culminating in 3 alliances. So, oh geez, I'll be right back. Sorry, just got a call from my boss. I got some work to do, so we'll pick this up later. We're at the various alliances within the game, so let's pick this up in a couple hours or so. Alright, okay, we're back. Several hours later. But, oh shit. Let's continue from where we left off. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure the Fraps indicator is in a place I can see it. Anyway, we were talking about the various alliances in the game. So, we went over our alliance. So, Mittel Europa is the alliance of Germany and German-influenced or related countries, which includes the German Empire, Flanders, Wallonia, which is where modern-day Belgium is, kind of, but some of it is missing. The interesting fact, apparently, Belgium holds the record for the country that has been the longest time without an official government. And the second place country is apparently Iraq. So there you go. Something about Belgian politics is they cannot get along to save their lives. Anyway, of course we have the German Empire, Lithuania, Ukraine. Of course, Russia has been split up into a crap ton of different nations. Approximately a crap ton, give or take. United Baltic Duchy, which is friggin', you know, Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, and then White Ruthenia, which is, I guess, roughly modern-day Belarusia. So those are those two alliances. Now the Internationale, which is obviously all the socialist countries, and they only consist right now of France and Italy, but they generally grow as time goes on. So that's the major alliances in the game, and those are some of the major developments that have been added. What is this? I don't remember. I think this might be a new development. Okay. Anyway. So, what did I say that we'd cover next? Oh yes, we'd cover next the various parameters of the game. So, with that, let's look over all the tabs we have up here. I'm actually going to turn off No Fog now. We don't need it. And it'll only distract us. So, we have our intelligence tab up here, which allows us to spy on other nations, and then from them we can do various cool things like assassinate ministers. Here we go. You know, coup nations, fund partisans, sabotage, industry, all types of different things. Although I rarely use them unless there's something very specific that I need to do. For the most part, we kind of ignore that. Here is a very important tab. This is our technology tab, which is where we research new technologies to further our nation in terms of industrial, industrial capacity, armor. We got land doctrines, aircraft, and a whole bunch of other things. So, first things first. Let's see here. Let's research 1936 infantry. That'll be our first project. Industrial-wise, let's upgrade our production. And lastly, what do we want here? What else do we potentially need? Medicine. No. Don't need radar right now. Base computing. Can we research any land doctrines, or will those come later? Light infantry, land doctrine, defensive focus, or firepower focus, manpower focus, mobility focus. So this basically is going to allow us to decide which tech tree we want to go down in terms of where we want to focus our land army into. And we'll make that decision a little bit later, actually, when we decide or get into some really tricky fights. Then we can decide what we're gonna do. I'm definitely thinking we're probably gonna maybe go either firepower focus or mobility focus. Definitely don't want to go a manpower focus, because Canada is not a nation that has a lot of land power or has a lot of manpower. That's the major drawback as playing as Canada. Not a lot of manpower to draw on, so you got to really use your infantry wisely and focus on things more like tanks and you know, the infantry divisions that you do have. You got to beef them up with artillery or armored cars or anything else you can. So we'll save that for a little bit later, but that means let's go with the light tank for Canadian Motorworks. There you go. Beautiful. So here, gonna research our first tank. And by the way, last time I played through this game, we had an older version of Kaiserreich. Now we have a new version which has expanded tech trees all the way to the ending date, which is 1963. So that's very, very nice. So, those are some of our technologies, and oh, I should also mention, when you're choosing a research team to do a technology, well, let's just cancel this project. I mean, there's no research in it. You go and you click on here, and then you want to choose a, you know, a company or person or whatever else that has the most objects here highlighted. So we can see that the infantry needs, training, munitions, electronics, artillery, and general equipment. And the Long Branch Arsenal has 4 out of those 5, meaning they're going to be able to research this technology the fastest. So, moving on to our economy. We don't need these. We're not going to build these for now, because we're not going to focus in on our navy just quite yet, but that is something that will come. So, if we go look at our economy tab, we can see what resources our nation is producing. We have, in terms, we have a couple resources here: energy, metal, raw materials, oil, supplies, and money. And basically, what you really want is to have, as you just want to be in the green with all these potential resources. I would say your most important resource is supplies, and they're what fuels your army. If your army doesn't have supplies, it can't function. You know, money, people would think that money is your most important resource, but not really. You use money for diplomatic means a lot of the time for most of what you're doing. So, we can see all those sliders over here, and over in this window, this is our industrial capacity. And industrial capacity is, of course, the amount of factories that we have. More factories you own, more industrial capacity you have. And then you allocate that industrial capacity into various different sectors, which can do various different things. Consumer goods creates consumer goods, obviously, which then are either sold for money or used to decrease dissension. Right now, Canada has 0% dissension, meaning we really don't need to have that many consumer goods. If you're playing a nation like Russia, they usually have a lot of dissension, and the more consumer goods you create, the faster that dissension rate is going to go down, and you want to get that dissension rate down as fast or as much as you possibly can, because the higher it is, the less industrial capacity you have. So, keeping that as low as possible is very critical. And Canada, we're pretty peaceful kind of people here in Canada, so hopefully I don't think we're going to need to worry so much about dissension. Production is the amount of industrial capacity allocated to what you're producing. So let's produce something. Let us produce a 1931 infantry division, and we're going to give him an artillery brigade. So there we go. We'll start production on him. And he requires 7 production. And right now we have allocated 17 industrial capacity into our production tab. So let's lower that to the point where, there we go, 7, 11. So there we go. That is enough to cover the production of our infantry unit. So for now we can leave that there. Supplies, industrial capacity allocated to creating supplies. And generally you want to have, just make sure this is above par, so you're creating more supplies than you're using. And also supplies can be traded for other materials. Reinforcements, this is the industrial capacity allocated into reinforcing your divisions. The more industrial capacity you have in reinforcements, the faster your divisions will be reinforced from battle. But be careful, reinforcing divisions also cost manpower, so you also want to be careful of that. And lastly, upgrades. This is the amount of industrial capacity allocated into upgrading your units. So when we finish our 1936 infantry technology, our 1931 divisions are going to be obsolete. They're going to need to be upgraded. So the amount of industrial capacity your upgrades need will increase, because those guys need to be upgraded, and that costs your industrial capacity. So as you continue to advance, make sure you're putting at least some industrial capacity into your upgrades so you can keep your army up to date. So let's fiddle with this a little bit. We'll make sure we have our reinforcements coming in, and make sure we're having our upgrades covered. So there we go. But we'll probably need to fiddle with this a lot as time goes on. Auto control, this is where you can control your trade options. I usually just let the computer deal with that. It does a pretty good job. But if you want to stockpile certain resources, you can just click any of these buttons and say, you know, I want to make sure I have a nice stockpile of supplies, and the computer won't trade those. But generally speaking, it does a pretty good job. So I don't worry so much about that. Moving over to our diplomacy tab, and this is obviously where we're going to have to do you know, diplomatic negotiations with other countries. And let's click on the United States. There we go, and you know, we can do a bunch of different things. You know, we get to declare war if we wanted to declare war on them, but you know, we can guarantee their independence. Of course, we can open up our negotiations and trade with them. You know, we want to give them some blueprints for our technology, or we wanted to give them some divisions, you know, or we can influence them by giving them money, and you know, there's a bunch of different things we can do. But going back to our country, you can see here the various ministers of our government, and you can see our head of state is the King George the Sixth, or sorry, not the Sixth, the Fifth. So he's, you know, technically the head of state of Canada, and the monarchy is still technically the head of state in Canada today, but they don't really have any power. The guy who has all the power is the head of government, which is William Lloyd Mackenzie King. And William Lloyd Mackenzie King is an interesting guy. He is our longest serving prime minister. He served in the prime minister's office for something ridiculous. It was like it was around 25 years. You know, I don't have the numbers right in front of me. And I've given this lecture on William Lloyd Mackenzie King before because he was an interesting guy. Yeah, basically, he was elected as prime minister sort of before the Great Depression. Then he was kicked out partway through the Great Depression, and then he came back and then was our prime minister during World War II. And you know, there's a lot of interesting quirks about this guy. Really strange guy. It's said that he held seances in his house so he could contact and talk with the dead. And you know, he'd hold seances and try and bring back dead prime ministers and ask their advice. Or his relatives. It was also said he talked to his dog frequently and asked his dog for advice on how to run the country. He was extremely anti-Semitic. He apparently bought up all the properties around his house to keep Jews away. So he bought out all the property even though he didn't need to, just so he could make sure Jews didn't move in. And he apparently visited Hitler. And after he visited Hitler, he wrote in his diary something along the lines of, "This man's soft skin and smooth face indicates that he's a trustworthy and righteous fellow." So he's a pretty interesting guy. He was a master politician, though. He was basically the Mitt Romney of his time, in the sense that he was always flip-flopping on issues. He never ever took a stand. And I guess before YouTube and videotapes, people had a harder time calling him out on his constant flip-flopping. So he would just kind of say whatever was convenient, and he would never really take sides on issues. And one quote someone said about him is that William Lloyd Mackenzie King never had a shape because he never took any sides. So he was able to play that game to his advantage and stay on as prime minister for quite some time. Anyway, so basically we can fire any of these ministers if we want to and replace them with other guys. But for the most part, we're not going to fiddle with this too much. And each minister has different things and different bonuses and sometimes negatives that they add. Unfortunately, I can't kick out King George, so that kind of sucks. But over here are the policy options of our country, and we can, over time, shift our country in different directions towards sort of a democratic spectrum or an authoritarian spectrum. Political right, political left, open society, closed society, free market, central planning, standing army, drafted army, hawk lobby, dove lobby, interventionism, isolationism. So every time you shift these, it adds something. Because certain sort of elements on the spectrum have added bonuses. So the more authoritarian we go, that is going to, well, it'll decrease our dissension of when we declare war, and it'll decrease or increase our dissension if we release a puppet state. Or, you know, if we go to, say, our central planning and closed markets, there's different things that this will add. So if we go to central planning, we get less money from consumer goods, but our production time is decreased. So there's certain trade-offs to going either way when you're sort of formulating your society, and you can only change this slightly once every year. But the main thing you always want to do is try and move to a standing army as fast as you can, because that increases the organization of your troops, which is an extremely important factor, which we'll get to a little bit later. So generally, first thing you always want to do, move towards standing army. And statistics, I know this just gives you the very statistics of the game. So up here we can also see certain things like our manpower and our industrial capacity. But let's go click on a province and see what it tells us. So if we click on a province, actually let's go to Toronto, it'll tell us a bunch of different things about it. It'll tell us a bunch of attributes about Toronto. One, it'll tell us that it's an urban center, and that's going to affect battles that are fought there. So generally urban areas have a strong, you know, sort of defense, and are, you know, it's easier, or it's difficult, more difficult for vehicles to fight there, and those types of things. You know, logical things you would perceive would be a part of having a battle in that type of terrain. And also the star here represents the amount of victory points you have, and at the end of the game, the alliance with the most victory points wins the game. And there's a couple of other things here, like how many air bases this place has, how many naval bases it has, how many rocket sites, how many nuclear reactors, how many radar stations, flak guns, land fortifications, coastal fortifications, industrial capacity, infrastructure. Higher the infrastructure a province has, the faster units will move through it, and partisan activity. And also it shows us the amount of resources this province is giving us. Currently it's giving us 3 manpower. But other things will give us, you know, I don't know. You know, this province gives us lots of natural resources, and so on and so forth. Now, let's look at an infantry division. And here is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. So, we got a cavalry division here, and it's going to tell us a lot, all it can, about this particular division. Do we actually have an army? Here's an army. And put them together. And this will tell us about the army itself. Actually, we can't really do that because it's a garrison. So anyway, so here's our where was our Royal Canadian Mounted Police? So it tells us all the different types of attributes that this regiment has. It's hard attack, how good it is against vehicles. Soft attack, how good it is against infantry. Defense, air attack, speed, and so on and so forth. And it shows us where this unit is supplied from, tells us who the general is, and over here there are the 2 bars. The orange bar is how much strength this division has. This is how many people are in it, I guess. So it's at half strength right now, but we're going to reinforce that. So to bring it up to a full bar, meaning this division is at full strength, you know, it's ready to go. The green bar is its organization. And this is important in battles, because when a division runs out of organization, it's going to flee and it's going to break. So generally, battles you don't end up losing, you know, all your guys in a battle. You don't, and unless it's a really brutal battle, you're not going to lose most of your divisions. But when the organization reaches 0 of your army, the army breaks and the army runs and it can't fight anymore. And you have to wait over time for that organization to be refilled. And that's why you want to move to standing army as fast as possible, because it increases your organization, giving you an edge in combat. So, I think that's all the different parameters of the game. You can these are just informational tabs right up here. So, I'm trying to think. I think I've given you all the information about all this stuff that we'll need to know for right now. So I'll go into the parameters that I'm going to use to play the game, and for the most part I'm just going to play the game. Normally I'm only going to use one cheat code, and that is no revolts, because what happens generally, and this is a big problem for me in Darkest Hour, is the partisans, if you conquer a territory, partisans will start operating in that territory, and eventually they might rise up and try and take it over. And usually that's not a problem. The only problem is that in Darkest Hour, they're huge pains in the asses to defeat. The partisan divisions are, I think, way overpowered in comparison to what they should be, and so generally, just for a smoother game, I just turn them off. So, with that, I think it's time to go through time and space and start the game. Hooray! So, and over time, of course, different things will pop up, giving you information. So we just made a diplomatic deal with National France, traded some blueprints with one of our neighbors, and here's basically introduction saying, hey, welcome to Kaiserreich. Oh, good. Okay, we're gonna make these go away. Display it in. And also, I don't think we need to know when something has army detachment has been upgraded. Theoretical breakthrough, a secret weapon. Also, I can't hear the sound effects. I'm going to turn them up a little bit. Still can't hear them.